Good evening. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. If anybody would like an agenda, they are on the stool right outside. Mr. Veer, you're waving at me. Could you please stand and lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up is the disclosure of conflict of interest. Is there any councilor who feels they have a conflict of interest with the votes they will take tonight? Seeing as there are none, we will... Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not a conflict. We will go to the approval of the consent agenda. Could I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All right, unfinished business, Order 142, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An order providing for purchase of hazmat trailer for fire department.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilor Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Bofia?
Yes.
Councilor Smith?
Yes.
Councilor Mayu?
Yes.
Councilor Coelho?
Yes.
Councilor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to new business, Resolution 145, 2019.
A resolution providing for appointing Samantha Burdick to the Planning Board. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Waterville, acting as municipal officers as follows, that the City Council hereby authorize the appointment of Samantha Burdick to the Planning Board with a term to expire in 2021.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion? All in favor? Samantha, could you stand up and wave? Thank you so much for your willingness to do this for the community. We're really excited. Thank you very much. And next is Resolution 146, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for authorizing the renewal of liquor licenses expiring between October 1, 2019 and December 31, 2019.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion from the public? All in favor? Moving on to councilor updates. Any councilor updates tonight? Moving to community notes. Community notes is a time where if anybody has something they would like to say or announce that is not on the agenda already, now would be the time to do so. We ask that you come to the podium, state your name, tell us where you live and what you have to say, and we'll give you a couple minutes to do that.
Hello, my name is Scott McInerney, I'm a Waterville resident, but I'm here on behalf tonight of the Waterville Community Land Trust Board of Directors. I have an update and an invitation. First of all, just so everybody know, that the Land Trust has actually purchased our second home at 3 Moore Street. We plan on doing renovations through winter, early spring, and hopefully by late spring, early summer, we'll actually be able to put that for sale. That's a good positive thing for us. And also on September 29th, from 3 to 5 p.m., we're going to be having an it's not a house, but an open house of our park that we're constructing down on Water Street. I'd like to invite the mayor, the city council, city manager, and also anybody, members of the public who would like to come down. Again, it's at 3 to 5 p.m. It's down, if way past you go down Grove Street, and many, some of you might remember that was actually the land that we purchased the land from. I think it was the city who held it, but it was a piece of property, 232 Water Street, that was torn down, and we put in a stipulation that it was going to be actually built as a park.
What was the date again?
September 29th.
Thank you.
It's on a Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. We're going to have light refreshments. We don't know if it's going to be completely done, but right now we have the patio looking at least, hopefully we have it halfway done, but we also have like concept designs of what, the finished product, what it'll look like. And it's also going to, we have information on the land trust if anybody wants to come down, get information on the land trust, and like I said, it's open to the public. Anybody who wants to come down, if you, like I said, go down past Grove Street, you'll see it. Hopefully, we'll try to put something out there to kind of mark it to show where it is.
Thank you.
Wtvl Ward 7. Just a couple of things that I'd like to point out to the public. On the Trafton Road and elsewhere throughout town, you're going to see these evacuation notices, P, Q, O, N, A. I was like on the Trafton Road bringing my wife to work, and I'm like, okay, what's this? And what it is the Maine Department of Transportation, since State Police Officer Ben Campbell, that tragic accident this winter, when the interstate shuts down so that they can do the reconstruction, you will be alerted by those black board signs across the highway to exit PP or ONA or whatever. The only problem that I had, and this concerns Waterville, I have a Jeep, and that Jeep is a four-wheel drive. I take it up to North Main Woods. Evacuation route O goes on the Junction Road, okay, which is right across the street from the 8 Rod Road. My Jeep cannot do that, okay? I can't imagine a passenger vehicle nor an 18-wheeler getting off Interstate 95 and going down Junction Road. So I contacted the powers to be down in the state. They're going to look at it, and they're in the process of tweaking it. So you're going to, instead of going down the Junction Road, probably the middle road. So that takes care of that. Also, on a week from tomorrow, September 11th, it's on a Wednesday, is the 18th anniversary of 9/11. We're inviting the public. I have to sign the permit from Matt Skian tomorrow, but it will be at Riverwalk Park. It's a candlelight vigil, very solemn. Things are shaping up really well for that. I want to thank the City of Waterville for allowing us to do that. It will run at Riverwalk Park on Front Street next Wednesday, September 11th, from 6 p.m. until roughly about 7:30, quarter of 8, 8 o'clock. And it's open to the public, non-denominational. You know, there's going to be guest speakers. Our mayor's going to speak. I've reached out to state representatives and State Senator Scott Steelway. So it's very solemn. I'd like to see the attendance here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Kim Linloff, Mid-Main Chamber. You all should have gotten a notice today, but in case you didn't, we're doing a ribbon cutting at the Lion's Den, which is 74 Main Street, on Thursday at 4:30, and we'd love it if you all could be there to join us. Thank you.
I almost contemplated having dinner before I came. I'm glad I didn't. Reed Finch, Ward 6. I have just a quick update for Green Street Park. This Saturday from 9 to 11, we'll be doing our final bike repair of the season. And we're going to be focusing on how to store your bike for winter. And so it's geared towards kids, but it is open to anybody who wants to come down and find out how to store your bike. And, you know, if there's time permitting, we'll run through a couple of other light repairs.
Thank you. Hi.
I'm Heather Stone. I'm from Ward 1. And I want to know if there's any way or what could be done, or how could any or I assist in any way in doing a spring cleanup, maybe even every other year. I know that there's a lot of people that have stuff, and I know that you can go to the airport road and dump your items, but is there a stepping stone that we can take to price out, see what it costs citizens? Like I said, even every other year, there are people that just don't have access to get stuff there. I've put a camp chair in a purple bag feeling stupid because the bag is worse for the environment than the chair, you know?
Right,
But,
right.
so, what,
Like, sort of like a bulky item, like,
Yeah,
type of thing.
yeah.
I
typical things
guess.
people are going to put on the side of the road. And I highly suspect, and it's kind of ironic, to kind of, whatever, just to divulge who I am. When Fairfield does their trash week, I drive around. I look for furniture that can be repurposed, and people would do that throughout Waterville.
Sure.
So a lot that ends up on the side of the road wouldn't actually be picked up. I mean, there's some things, of course, they would be. But, I mean, we do, where, you know, it's great where we can bring batteries and hazardous things on certain things. That's great. But the bulky items, I mean, I was talking to Mike the other day. I'm going to have a mattress that I'm going to be changing out soon. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with it. Like, I know I can get it to the airport road, but it's like, I feel like our residents pay enough to be able to, even every other year. I mean, I've been here for 10 years, and it's my basement has quite a bit of things that it's like, those got to go now. So what can I mean, I am posing a question. What can be done, or what can I research or look into, or what to proceed to see if this is beneficial for enough residents that people would actually want to pay a little bit more to have this service? Because I know I would, not a lot more, but.
I see the city manager raising his hand over here.
It's a very difficult question to answer, and we've been talking about it for a long time, because people have the same issues you do. I have it, same issue. and
Right.
I get together with my siblings, and we get a trailer, and we haul all our stuff to the transfer station at one time. But I think the only model that I've seen in Waterville that works well is what the South End Neighborhood Group is doing.
Yep.
And that is to have that one day a year where they get together, and they have a fund in the South End. They're able to rent a dumpster, and the city helps coordinate some of that. So really, in a neighborhood way, that's the best model.
So could we do that for the north end? Is there some outreach that the north end or any other part of Waterville could reach out to, I mean, if the city's open to coordinating that for the south end, and I know they have their own association, which, as far as I know, pulls some funds from the city.
Right.
Could we do this sectionally to each part of the town? I mean,
Yeah, the biggest worry that we've had down through the years is once that word gets out, that there's a place where people can go and bring stuff for free, there's no question in our minds that we will get stuff from all over the place, because other towns charge too.
so let me ask you this. I don't want to interrupt you, but let me ask you this. The south end has put out the dumpster for a couple of years now, in the very least.
Yep.
Has anybody seen an increase in people just dumping things in the south end to have a volunteer come along and pick it up and put it in the dumpster?
No, I haven't heard much about that, but it's closely monitored too,
We,
the way they do
I
it.
think we have an expert witness in the back here.
As a member of Senate, I can tell you that this year was our, we've been doing this other than cleanup for,
4 or 5 years?
yeah, I was gonna say 5, so, and this year, we made the mistake of telling people about it ahead of time and
Ah.
distributing flyers, and depending on how you want to measure it, it was either wildly successful in that we filled 9 dumpsters, or people took advantage of the fact that there was a place
The
that
ability,
they
yeah.
could get all of their stuff dumped for free. So I think that, you know, what Mike was saying about that's the risk you run of if there's a free
Absolutely.
thing.
I understand that.
I mean, would the solid waste committee be the place to probably bring this question? I mean,
Yep.
to see, I mean, we can't guarantee there's going to be a better solution for you, but I think that would, to me, it seems like we actually have a committee that deals with these things. Plus, we have people from the South End Neighborhood Association who have been doing it for a while, if that's the route to go. So I think there's a couple avenues to start looking. The best thing you're doing is asking and talking about it right now, as opposed to in May.
Right.
So.
So basically, check in with the South End Association, see what they're doing. The city,
And
there's no...
include me,
And include you?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no way to basically, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't want you to take your time and effort and energies to poll the city, but essentially finding out if people think that it would be a practical measure to do with paying a little bit of money to be able to do it. There's no way of doing that.
I'm sorry, paying, say it again?
To poll the
To
city.
poll the city, to find out from our community, do we want to do this, and would it be worthwhile to do it if you got charged, this much money? Or even, obviously, the price is going to vary depending on how much trash is actually out there, how much garbage is out there.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a way to kind of estimate, to come up with an expense, say, okay, well, there's this many community members, there's this much amount of expense, if we only did it every other year even, what would community pay, or individuals pay, $25 a year? See, well, I don't have no clue how that would even be close, but to have this truck come by 1 week, set out your mattresses, your skis, your whatever you have.
Sure. I would tell you, I think one of the things you'll find, I would say no, because I already pay Gregory's 20-some-odd dollars a month, and
Right.
and at Christmas time, they send me a sheet full of coupons, so I get that bulky item, free TV or computer or whatever.
Yeah.
We're probably really talking about folks that rely on the city for the trash pickup. Eric, were you going to make a point?
I just think the discussion is for the committee. We're not
Yes.
going to solve it here. But I am on the solid waste committee, and this is something we've talked a lot about. There's some different ideas that I've pushed for over the years. There hasn't really been a lot of support for the city getting into the bulky item business. But I think there are some ways to do it. But in the short term, certainly, the South End has a very active neighborhood association, which is why they get some support from the city, because there was a fund established whenever a foreclosed home in the South End is sold.
Yeah.
Any funds above and beyond the taxes that are owed go into the fund to be used for projects in the South End.
Okay.
Something similar could be set up in other neighborhoods as well, if there was a group of people that
Wanted to manage that.
Gotcha. The South End Neighborhood Association does the bulk of the work on the cleanup. I believe the city may provide a dumpster, and then the rest of them are paid for, and they get sponsors to pay for it. And then some of it is paid for out of the South End Improvement Fund.
Okay.
Um,
So I will probably, what's your name?
I'm Charles Pullen, I live down the South End. To answer her question, you break it down. You know what I mean? If you got a couch, you take the cloth out, you get the wood out, and if there's iron, like Lucien, he collects iron to sell, or you can take it down the 201, like I did when I took my door out this summer, Copay door, and I took all the aluminum out, I took it to that guy, and I got $5 for that. The rest I cut up small pieces, threw it in the bag, and got rid of it. So you gotta break it down. You can't take, a whole couch and then you gotta wrestle with it, and so that's what you gotta do.
Seems like a lot of
If you know
labor.
somebody that
Seems
brings
like
wood,
cheaper just-
oh yeah.
Seriously, just put it in the street and so.
you can call any of the trash haulers, do pick up bulky items for a fee.
Yeah,
So,
you gotta pay.
yes, you have to pay. You have to pay just like when you bought it,
Anyway, that's my,
Anybody else for community notes?
Good evening.
Hi.
Kristen Price, Ward 2. I have the privilege to speak in front of you again. It's kind of becoming a thing. And I do it because I have a civic responsibility, I feel, to myself and my neighbors. And I feel like when you say something, you should have some accountability, stand by what you say, mean what you say. And for that, most of the times that I'm up here, I'm talking about my difference of opinion with the mayor and his many platforms. I have talked about denouncing the narrative. And in denouncing the narrative, I have been called lunacy. It's lunacy to do this. I've been jeered at. I've had public comments on the face group that were actually threatening in nature, which I did try to tag you in so you could maybe say, hey, let's change the narrative a little bit, but I got nothing. So I was like, let me look a little bit to make sure what I'm saying is actually coming across the right way. So I looked at the minutes, and I was shocked that the first time that I spoke, there was nothing about anything of what I said except for the favorite liberal punchline of, you don't represent us in Waterville, which is a punchline in the far right in Waterville. There was nothing among my statements about who is the us in the us versus them and what have you done personally. And this is a public forum, and I don't feel that the people of Waterville should feel intimidated in any way, shape, or form. And I feel our leaders should say, we can have civil discussion. We can talk about our differences, and that is how we move together. By sowing a divisive line, we cause this hatred to come forward. We cause these threats to come forward. We cause jeering and an outcry beyond how can we meet? How can we make this better? So I say that with my 3 minutes being up, and I have a question. So who takes the minutes? Oh wait, I'm sorry. My last statement didn't even make the minutes. The woman before me was noted. The joke after me was noted. My statement, not there at all. So I'd like to know who takes notes of community notes? And I have my printed one so that way I can amend the statement to be correct.
City Clerk, Patty and Sarah, who's been here last year meeting, take the minutes. But there's no obligation whatsoever for community notes or even the manager's report to have minutes. The minutes are most important about what the council takes for votes. So my suggestion going forward to the clerks is going to be, let's not take minutes from community notes because we can't possibly record everything that everybody says. And so I think now we've seen that when we leave out maybe one thing, it leads to so many other things. And I think the best thing is to just not record.
So with that begs the question of these announcements that were just had that were for community notes, I assume to go in the minutes. Are those not going to be now notated on the record that they're doing all these great things and they want everybody to know?
Most of the announcements are already done by the time the next meeting comes along.
Yeah, I know, it's
2
for
weeks later.
posterity. It's for posterity. That's my point. But
Posterity is the video. Posterity is the video.
That is true, and the comments on the video.
Sure.
So on that, thank you.
Ms. Price, I would offer you this clearly. If you feel that there are differences, and obviously we need more than 3 minutes that we're going to solve in community notes, I can speak on behalf of myself, and I think the city manager as well, that if you would like to just contact our assistant, we'd be more than happy to have you into City Hall, and I would take all the time in the world to go over that with you.
But the point of my community notes is so that way the community that doesn't follow your Facebook page gets to hear your lovely rhetoric. That is the point of me being here speaking, shining a light on your words. That's why I'm here.
And you can continue to do that, but I guess I'm not going
will.
to take you seriously if you don't want to actually discuss these things.
I will gladly discuss it, but our views are so different that I would respect you more if you stood up to the trolls that threaten violence, but you incite them and you don't say anything.
Well, I'm sorry I don't live on Facebook.
I don't live on Facebook either, but
Right.
thank you for your time.
You bet. Manager's report.
Patty's going to put it up on the screen.
Wait, we got one more.
Oh, we got one more community note?
Oh, okay. There are copies of the manager's report there. Not many left, but
How you doing? Michael McFarland. Live over here on Hathaway. No, I've been going around quite a bit to the parks this summer. Yeah, and I come into a spotlight because I'm there, you know. I'm trying to help people, you know. And I think I've succeeded because through the summer I've got one guy to go to detox, and he's doing awesome. You know, there was an incident the other night up to Memorial Park. Had nothing to do with me or 6 or 7 other people, but we got kicked out of there because we was there after dark, and the ordinance says 10 o'clock. So I brought that to Assistant Chief Bonnie's attention, and basically I was told that I have been too much in the spotlight this summer, and wherever I go, trouble seems to follow me, and and you know, that's going to take effect. The other people, they're more allowed, you know, talk to them and they can probably get it squashed. But because I am in the limelight, you know, and I'm trying to do good things for the city, you know,
I pick it up, you know, needles. I talk to a lot of alcoholics, drug addicts. I'm just trying to do an outreach. But you know, I guess I'm going to call it what it is. If the Gestapo would stop coming over and asking for people for ID and running our names, then I guess I wouldn't have that much contact with them. You know,
I am going to tell you I take offense to you referring to our police force as the Gestapo.
okay.
I think that's an absurd statement.
I apologize. Well, that's how I feel, and I apologize.
And I'm sorry you feel that way, and
You know, I
yeah.
took on Memorial Park because it meant something to me. Not up there to cause disturbances. You know, people do. You know, I post on there all the time. If you are up here to cause a disturbance, please go somewhere else. You know, if I happen to be there and there's a disturbance, I just feel like I got targeted and basically was told that if I'm not in the parks, then the problems won't persist. So I'm going to keep note.
And I would recommend, you know, all city employees do report to Mike Roy, the manager, and I would recommend that you do follow up with Mike if I mean, it sounds like this is a legitimate concern that you have of that you feel like you're being targeted.
Well, I asked him.
I think it's a
right?
productive.
I asked our assistant chief right out straight what I did wrong to get a criminal trespass notice. You know, the ordinance says 10 o'clock. This would happen at 8:30. The officer stated that the disturbance had nothing to do with me. And his answer to me was, well, seems to where you are, there's trouble. So if I did something wrong, I'd be the first one to tell you I did something wrong. But for me to be kicked out of a park that I take pride in cleaning, you know, our city, you know, the city does an awesome job too, you know, but they're short-handed. You know, they can't be up there every day picking up the trash, picking up stuff, you know?
Sure.
But I feel like I got targeted, and now it's just, I'll find some other project, you know?
Well, I think it's important that if you do feel like you are being targeted, that you do follow up with this. And I appreciate you bringing it forward, but I think the important thing to know is that the police ultimately do report to the city manager. And so there is somebody above the police chief that you can go to.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And I would recommend also, I mean, you should let the city council know, because ultimately the city manager reports to the city council. I mean, the kind of the buck stops with these guys right here. So it is important to bring it up, but I think if you feel that way legitimately, and you seem very sincere in your words, and I know what you've been doing this summer as far as picking up around the city, that you do I just want to make sure you have those appropriate channels
Yes.
to follow up.
I apologize for the words that I used. I'm frustrated and I use the wrong words.
And that's fine. I understand you're emotional. It's just my duty to correct that when I hear it.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir.
I think I'm next.
You are.
All right. Well, the first thing I want to say is welcome back, Patty.
Yeah. Better than ever.
Okay, so up on the screen are the major projects that we're dealing with, and probably as important as anything else is that notice about the public hearing next Tuesday night on the Main Street two-way traffic proposal. So that public hearing, 7 o'clock, next Tuesday nights in the Elm building, the former Legion building. Beautiful in there. I went in there for the first time today. Done a great job fixing it up. It'll be plenty big. Well, it holds 900 people, so I'm thinking that we're not going to have more than 900 people there. Next is something that's also working its way to a point where we're going to start talking about it more and more, and that's the redesign of the concourse. So we've been meeting as a working committee and with the engineering firm we've hired, and we've come down to two options, option 3, as you can see in the listing, and then a version of option 3, which is 3A. The engineering firm presented 5 options. Some of us that have been working on it found that option 3 was, in our view, the best, but that will be for all of you to look at and decide for yourselves. Then it'll come to the parking committee next, which I hope is by the end of this month, September. We talked about the Alphon pool a little bit earlier. The slides stuff was completed on or about August 15th. Remember that there's major engineering analysis going on for everything else at the pool facility, and the goal of that work by the engineers is to come up with a cost for, I can't say fixing the current pool, probably replacing the current pool with a new one, because there are serious problems with leakage at the pool, and so we're probably looking at a replacement pool. It's 20 years old, and so our hope is to have those cost estimates in hand in order to approach the Alphon Foundation in late September with a request. They helped the city build the pool 20 years ago, and they're certainly seems interested in helping us repair, replace what needs to be done. Number 4 is Head of Falls. We had a very good meeting last week with the development group. A number of you were there. That's very much, I think, a long-term project at Head of Falls. What kind of development could we see there? Housing, some office space, some commercial space, where, how much? Those are all questions that are still being batted around, but we've really started to work on it and look. And there's a number of issues that have to be addressed: parking, zoning, and so on. So that work at Head of Falls for long-term development is moving along. Please, if there are any questions, interrupt me. Otherwise, I'm going to go on to item 5, which is Lockwood Mills. They're applying to the Maine State Housing Authority as part of that project, and probably at your next meeting will be a council resolution regarding the acceptance of the community development block grant in the amount of $450,000. We're not ready to put that before you because there has to be a formal vote to accept the money. A number of things have to be done before we're able to actually put that request forward. The state's requiring us to submit certain information. Riverwalk, the awning project is still in the works, and we're hoping to have an awning up around the amphitheater this month. It's taken a lot of engineering work to design all of the pieces for that awning, but it is going on. Bond issue. If you can bring us to the next page, Patty, sorry. Bids on our bond are due next Tuesday. And so we'll know next Tuesday what the interest rate is for the amount that we're proposing to borrow. And I would certainly let all of you know about that. Then we'll move it forward. The funds from the bond issue should become available, I think, a few days, a few weeks, maybe even 2 weeks after the issue. We accept the bid. Last thing, which is not on there, is something we've been working on for a long time. You heard about it during budget time, and that's dispatch fees, what we charge to provide dispatch services for, I believe it's 8 communities, 8 or 9 communities. And we're proposing a new formula for charging those towns. That will be on your next agenda. Just wanted to give you a heads up. If you have questions, I also want to provide some time, as Councilor Thomas suggested, to notify our 8 customers and let them know. It's going to be, a change, a substantial change in the fees that we're requesting for dispatch. And so we want to give them every opportunity before it gets to you to ask questions to find out the where and the why behind the numbers.
Mike, we have a question out there.
Sure.
Could you say a little bit more about the concourse redesign, which maybe is talking about in other settings and and what adoption brings?
Probably the number one goal with the redesign was to increase parking, make sure pedestrian safety is, assured, but increase the number of stalls, considering we're going to lose some on Main Street. So the engineering firm provided 5 different plans for changes out there. Each plan had a different number of additional stalls.
So it's really all
It's really all about parking. I mean, it's trying to provide parking in this corner to help the library out, providing more parking in that corner. That's been one of the goals, right? Trying to do it without removing those trees that were planted 20 years ago. Some are going to have to go. If the city decides to pursue, well, any of the options, all of them require removing some of the trees, which I don't think is a good thing, but I think we can increase some of this parking. It's probably a fair trade-off. Question is how many?
I was concerned that it was about moving stores out of there and bringing
Oh, no.
entities in.
No. Yes, Bob?
I have a question, Mike. I'm hearing scuttlebutt that Colby recently purchased the Bobbin Damons as well as Creative Sounds, and will be tearing it down for parking.
No, that's not true. Well, we haven't heard anything about it. And
Okay.
the one I always rely on is shaking her head back there, so I know that Kim has not heard anything.
I heard, I called you running, you said it was crap.
There you go.
That is about, in a nutshell, 90% of what we hear, to be honest with you.
Another question, Mike. That canopy, is that similar, that awning for the Riverwalk, is that going to be similar to what's in Auburn, Lewiston?
Exactly, the
Yeah.
same thing.
Good.
Yep, so if any of you have seen that one in Auburn, same thing.
J-Bone.
Right.
Same one. We good? Thank you.
All right. Motion adjourned?
Motion to adjourn.